Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and this is part 2 to self-image and womanhood. This was a question put on by one of my fans in Discord. Ellie, thank you for asking it, Ellie. I want to go more into deconstructing this because it's a really juicy topic. There's a lot to go in, and if you want to see the first video of where we discuss this on a very high level and the definition of it, then go check that out. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the questions that you need to be asking yourself around like your own womanhood and your own definition of your womanhood. So kind of the first question to ask here is, what does it mean to be a woman to you? That's probably the most important question, right? And it's a lot to decouple and unfold because there's so much in there. And I think the fundamental part of this is really this thing called the gender schematic, the thing within you that you've constructed and that's very complex of what you think and expect a woman to be. Now, this has been constructed partially by the media narratives and things that you consume online, but it's also been constructed by your surroundings and the people that you're around, including your mom, and how you have evolved in this relationship in seeing, oh, this is what it means to be a woman and this is what it means not to be a woman, that kind of stuff. Now, the gender schematic is kind of hard to reshift because it's so deeply embedded. But that doesn't mean that you can't change it, and it doesn't mean that you can't work with it in a way to create more self-acceptance. If you are trans, this is probably one of the harder focuses, the deeper focuses that you're going to have to do on your own personal development in life, because you're born with different genitalia, you've lived under a certain hormone regime with testosterone that has shaped your body, changed your voice, changed your appearance in ways that may be irreversible. And this makes it a lot harder to feel accepted by yourself and also the world around you, especially if you're consuming media that also talks about TERFs and talks about how people don't like trans women, that kind of stuff. So when we think about the gender schematic, I think you have to think about, what is that? What have I constructed? What are those definitions? And are those definitions really good for me? Are those definitions really valid definitions of who I am? And I think the deeper question between these two parts is, who are you? What part of you is innate? What part of you exists when you feel comfortable in being your most authentic self? In a space where you feel like no one would see you and you can just be free as who you are. What emerges? What comes out? What is that within you that is inherently you? And if you're feeling like you are a woman and that innate sense of you feels womanly, then that's where you should start. That's really where you should start, and use that as your guide for the rest of these questions, which is like, what's the gender schematic? How does that relate to who you are internally? And also, are these schematics correct for you? And relate that back to your own inner sense of knowing, who are you really deeply? Also, more tactically speaking, think about like, what kind of media are you consuming that's reinforcing certain beliefs of what your gender schematic is and how your body and how your appearance should be perceived. I'm guilty for doing this too. I have had many Instagram accounts that I follow of beautiful women and beautiful trans women too. And I may compare myself to their excellentness and see all of the flaws that I have that I don't have there. For example, hips is a big one, or butt, or face, or shoulders, all of these things. I can see so many other women that have much better bodies than me, and even trans women that have much better bodies than me because they started HRT earlier and they got some hip growth out of that, and it makes me feel like the worst because I was never able to achieve that. Now, that's something that I've had to deal with and work with on my own to really just come to a point of, look, there's nothing you can do about your hips and your body in that part, so you're just gonna have to work through that. And the way that I've worked through that is I've relabeled my own value system of what it means to have an attractive female body. I'm pretty skinny, and that's a blessing for me. And I have looked at other women that are taller, that are more realistic, because a lot of the Instagram curvaceous figures, which is a trend, by the way, and not inherently beauty for a woman, but the trend is really like around curvaceousness, and a lot of these women are very short, so their proportions can work like this. But the taller you get, the less curvaceous you can be, because your body is just longer and bigger. So I'm a tall woman, I'm 5'10" or 177 centimeters, and I just can't get that curvaceousness. Plus I have Asian genes, and Asian genes, typically Chinese genes, don't have a lot of curves either. So when I look at my sister's body and my own body, they're actually kind of similar. My shoulders are a little bit bigger, but you can work with that. You can find ways of using clothes to manipulate how you appear. But ultimately, it shouldn't be about manipulating how you appear, but the kind of media that you consume that reinforces your own perception of what it means to be a woman. So then once you look at that and can see what helps or hinders you about your own gender schematic, and also like what media you're consuming, you can also start thinking about what is correct for you and what you're constructing. And then from there, you can start to define your own womanhood. And I think that when you're defining your womanhood, you need to step back from the external world, because the external world doesn't really know what womanhood is. That's probably one of the most ridiculous things to say, but the more that I've looked at the world and what femininity is in society and what women are saying about their own femininity and what their own definitions of womanhood is, no one knows what womanhood is. People are just trying to construct constructions of what they thought was the definition of womanhood, and some people are trying to reinvent what the definition of womanhood is. No one knows what womanhood is. We're in this time of the singularity, so to speak, of gender expression and gender experience. It's all going on in every kind of way. And this is probably a really exciting time to really find a way that you can define your own path as a woman. One of the best and most freeing things in being a trans woman is that you get to reevaluate the parts of you that you want to keep and the parts of you that you want to get rid of. And at this point in your life, you're smart enough to kind of pick and choose what's healthy for you and what's not. And if there's something unhealthy and something that's not making you feel good, just get rid of it. Figure out how to let it go. Whether that's changing the way you consume media, changing the way that you take pictures of yourself, changing the way that you see yourself in the mirror. The biggest hack that I've used to help accomplish self-acceptance is just create a positive narrative with me in the mirror. That first started with just projecting woman as I look in the mirror, and that's grown into giving myself high fives and saying, "You're beautiful, I love you," when I go into the mirror. And to create a positive reciprocity with the mirror is going to change your own self-perception, because you believe what you see in the mirror is yourself. I should also take a step back and say, yourself is not what you see in the mirror. Yourself is just yourself. Yourself exists innately beyond your body. Your body is just the container for the part of you that expresses and experiences stuff in this physical world. But if you look deeply within your eyes, especially on acid or something like that, you will see that you're just in a body and that you're far beyond that. So yeah, that's some tips. I got many more, but obviously this video is getting a little long, so we'll end there. This has been brought to you by my patrons. Thank you, patrons, for supporting me. And if you would like to check out my Embracing Femininity program, you can check that out on my website. I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.